Morning, welcome back to the channel. I thought I'd start a new part. The last video you saw was me just finishing off the exhaust. I think you saw me talking in the car with a black eye. Anyway, what's happened since then? Nothing really. I had a little bit of a go on it last week. I've managed to get the exhaust finally finished, but I did actually try and put the footage in that last video, but for some reason it was just corrupting. You know, I actually edited that video 3 times for it to come out, so it just wasn't playing ball, that one. So I'm really glad to have it done. But right, this next one, this is going to be part 4, and in this one we're talking about fuel system. So I have filmed some of this previously. So basically what I've done so far is I have taken out the 300 TDI return port from the tank. It's like a little bolt in with six screws, and I've actually fitted a Range Rover Classic in-tank pump. So that's currently in there now, waiting, ready. So I'll pop some footage of that in probably some point during this video. So my plan originally up until this point was to run the car front to back stainless, braided stainless fuel hose, and the you've seen me using before the fittings, the race quip fittings or aero quip fittings. So I'll give you a quick close up of what I had intended. So those are the type. This happens to be a compression fitting, so I'll show you what that's for in a second. So that's what I had intended, and just using standard P-clips along the side of the chassis. I wanted to keep it on top of the chassis, but I just couldn't get the drill in. So what I've decided to do is I'm still going to use these, but instead of using P-clips, I'm actually going to put Land Rover style proper petrol fuel pipe mounts. So that's a genuine, well, not a genuine Land Rover, but it's a genuine Land Rover style part. So I'm going to pop them into the original bungs on the chassis and keep the fuel pipes as original. But I've decided, rather than using hose, I'm actually using hardline aluminium. I don't know whether you can just see that there. That's 8mm hardline aluminium tubing. So that's today's job. So today I go underneath, just trace the roots of the existing pipe work, pop the little clips in the existing holes. I think the Land Rover ones are 10 and 6mm on the 300 TDI, but I've obviously got 2 8mm pipes. So I've just got to pop them out, put the new ones in, and then just try and retrace the existing fuel line routes. So depending on how confident I am, I might show you doing maybe a bit of bending on the pipe work. I've brought some benders, and I'll probably show you making me one or two of them fittings off. But yeah, that's the plan for today's video. I've actually only got a couple of hours today, because I've got a family engagement on this afternoon. It's freezing today, so anyway, that's what happens when you take an engine conversion on over winter. But yeah, have made some progress in the background. I'll just give you a quick snippet of that, so just bear with me. So I will go in depth into this, but in a video coming up, that's a new fuse box and relay set that I'm starting to put in. And basically what I'm doing is making a manifold with basically what I'm doing is making a wiring harness with plug and play Defender and engine loom connections. So I'll do a proper video on this Maybe not doing the pin outs and stuff, but you know exactly how I plan to do it. I mean that little plug there, for instance, goes directly to the P38. That was quite difficult to source, but anyhow, so that's a future video coming up, wiring. Trying to make this plug and play as much as I can. So anyhow, I'm going to get to it. Start putting the pulling the old fuel lines off. Might try and lay them out on the bench, or on the floor should I say, and recreate them. If not, I've got a bit of an idea with some old cable, try and trace the routes. So stay tuned and I'll see you shortly. As you can see, tank's out. I just had to undo the little clip. I forgot to undo the breather, as it happens. Yeah, tank's out. So the idea is to change this part for a fuel injection pump, but I might have to do a little bit of a modification. So I'm just going to pull this out and well, give it a clean up first, then pull it out, then see where we're at. So tank's out. I need to change this little fitting here for this shiny new fitting there. What I'm going to have to do is just, can you see that? Yeah, there you go. So I'm going to have to change this for this new fuel pump setup there. So first things first, I'm going to give it a clean up so none of this crud gets in the tank. That's the tank all cleaned up. Now to remove these 5 PZ2 screws and pull this out in one. It shouldn't be tight. I've only been in there about 3 years. So that's the fuel return out. This is now going to be a suction, so it'll be a flow rather than a return. I just need to clean all these little bits of old gasket out. So originally there would have been a cork gasket, I think. So I just need to clean that little surface up and get all that crud off before it goes in the tank. I've noticed that the sender ball is just in line slightly, but my trusty bit of wire here, it does move out the way, so I just need to wrestle this bad boy in like that. Pop that out of the way so we can get it somewhere close to seated. Now that's out of the way. Check the lengths because I have read that you have to extend them, but this one is extremely close, within a couple of millimetres I'd say. So I'm just going to line this up, pop a screw in, and we'll see how it goes in a second. So that's now just inserted in place. Managed to hook the existing sender float out the way, so it's just a case of now hopefully nipping these up slightly. So that's all them in position, gasket's still there. I'm just going to go around and nip these up. So that's the new fuel pump in place. We'll have to run an electrical feed to it. I've belled out these wires. Brown is live and blue is negative, as you'd expect, but you never know. So these are to be now left loose. I've just got to tighten this little clamp up. So I'm using unleaded. It is E10 grade, although I have no intention of using E10. And a little tip, just for what I always do, save them rounding in the future, is do them with a little socket. You can get a little set from I think it's Lidl, about 15 quid. You can get quarter drive, comes with screwdrivers and everything. You'll see me use it on loads of bits, but that will then just be to tighten that up. Another little tip, if you've never done anything like this before, is always try and leave the connectors where they're accessible. So ideally it would be that side, but it can't, so it will be in line with your next fuel hose over here. Plenty good enough, nice and tight, it's not going to leak. And then the tank can go back in. I'm not going to film the tank going back in because it is an awful job if you ever had to do one. Obviously they get a bit of a state anyway because they tend to catch any leaking oil. Next job will be bolt the tank back in, keep these loose, and then hopefully we'll maybe have a look at some fuel lines. Apologies for the awful light, it's first thing in the morning, but basically we're just underneath the driver's side rear cross member, and you can just see just there the two fuel lines. So they run down on the top side of the chassis rail, just going down there up and into the engine bay, and then they just tuck behind the body mount here, and then they turn and basically face the fuel tank, which is just out of shot there. So I'm going to pull these clips out and put the new ones in. Just a quick shot of the existing. As you can see, 10mm and an 8mm connection. I thought it was actually 10 and 6, but 10mm and 8mm connection. The two new ones are 2/8. What I'm going to have to do is just trim these off, but by the looks of it, they're universal. They've got like a thinned section where you can just snip them. So I'm going to try that now, pop it in place. Just thought I'd bring you back for a catch up as to what I've done. So we've got the new fuel return pipe in. You can just see just where the edge of my finger is. That's the new fuel flow. So I'm going to mount fuel filter on the back wall. So there'll be a short flex fuel filter, pressure gauge, then that will come back off and go to my fuel supply. And then I'll just show you quickly underneath. So it's really difficult to see, but that's the new pipe work in place. And that just comes up over the back. I've not clipped it in there, so there is clips for it to go into, but basically I've run out of the hose I've got. The braided hose for these fittings isn't any good, so this is the return line. So that's just got to be bent round onto that clip there and then head that way. But I need to feed the hose onto it first, and that's the supply line, which just needs to be basically teed into that pipe just there that you can just see looping over. But again, I need a bit of braided hose to make up the difference. So there we go. I'll bring you back when I'm ready to do the rest of it. I've run out of time for today, so having a family life. So yeah, I've run out of time for today, but that will be the next job. So I'll dress this in. There is a clip just there, but I can't clip it in just yet. Not until I finish wrestling with these pipes, because you keep snapping the clips. So I'll bring you back once I've got some braided hose so we can finish this job off. You have to excuse the running car in the background. Unfortunately, I need to try and get this job done. So these are the clips I'm using to hold the fuel pressure, the fuel filter. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a good deal where I could get the clips included, and they're not quite the right size, but they are a good fit. So what's going to happen is this is going to go just there. So, you know, excuse this hose isn't staying there, but that's just basically going to be mounted on that plate there, so you can see where it is. And then if you can just see where the yellow tape is, that's the fuel supply line, which will come up T onto the bottom here with a hose, and then you'll have one fitting off the top there, which goes to that just little nut there, which I've got to remove shortly. So I'll get cracking and show you what's what. So I've just drilled the holes for two riv nuts. So I'm going to use a riv nut tool just to put two little M4 pins in, just to hold those brackets in place. I've actually drilled them in a plate that you get from Ashcroft's. So this is obviously an automatic. So when I converted it to automatic, I took out the clutch pedal, and this is basically a plate, the blanking plate that you can buy from Ashcroft's transmissions when you do that. So I've actually drilled this plate for a reason, and that's because I've got a new bulkhead going in this car at some point in the next couple of years. I've actually got a Puma bulkhead to go in. So I'm gonna literally just I'll give it a bit of a lick of paint so they get no corrosion. And then all you do, get your riv nut tool, close him up, and that should be good. Same again, that's just loaded, and what you do, you just pull it, and it pulls the bottom thread, upwards like a traditional rivet. That makes sense. And that leaves two tapped holes. Those are in place. They're in place in the plate. So when I do change bulkheads, which is probably going to be possibly this year, maybe next, I'll have all the holes already pre-drilled. So all I'm doing, just screwing straight into those little mounts. Just a bit better than a tech screw, which there we go. And the fuel filter. Just pops in place like that. So now I'll make the inlet hose, and then there'll be a little 90 coming off back to that fitting. But I'm not going to show you doing that. I'll just show you me assembling it all up. I'll bring you back in a bit. So that's the last one done. I'm just going to pop it onto this first, and then I'll just feed it all round, and then that'll be the last fuel system done. And then what I'll do, I'll bring you in my mobile and get you a closer up of it. And that's the last one done. I just need to nip that up and we call this fuel system done. Right, so that's the fuel system complete, other than a leak test, which I will be doing, but not until the pump's running. Yeah, so what I shall do now is I will bring you in a little bit closer on the phone so you can actually see what we've got and how it goes. So yeah, I'll just bring you back for that, and then I think I'll pretty much sign this video off. You have to excuse the background noise. So there's the hard lines through, just goes to a bit of flex just underneath there, back to the tank, and then those hard lines run through the factory brackets all the way along the chassis rail, and I'll show you in the engine bay where they come out. So they pop up in the engine bay just there. The one closest to the front is the return, that's this pipe here. I just need to source a new bracket because I snapped it when I was cutting the nut off that. There's the fuel supply line that comes back. Sorry, yeah, so the fuel supply line is this one with the 45 on it. That comes up through the fuel filter, fuel pressure gauge, through the 90, and then onto the fuel rail where it goes down the injectors. That's the fuel system done. Next job, I think I might have a go at the transmission cooler and the oil cooler. So yeah, I'll bring you back for that on another video. That's the fuel system pretty much wrapped up. So I just need to leak test it once I get the pump sorted, but I don't want to do that until I can get some. I've just got a little bit of wiring to finish off, to be honest. Well, I've got all the wiring to install, but I've got a little bit of the loom to finish off. But I'm trying to make the best of the good weather. Obviously you can see it's sunny today, even though it has been -3. So yeah, the fuel system's all done. I'm just dropping the oil out the engine now, having a bit of a play with it, to be honest. I've only got about an hour. I was going to do the transmission cooler oil, but sorry, the transmission oil cooler, but yeah, it's getting on. I've only got about an hour before I need to shoot somewhere, so yeah, about an hour and 20 minutes, so it's going to take me 20 minutes to pack up. So I thought I'll just drop the oil out the engine. I'll change the oil cooler pipes, that's a pretty simple job to get to, and I'll put the new oil filter on. So I might film it, I don't know, we'll see. But anyway, for this video, thank you very much guys, and yeah, I'll see you on the next one. I think the last video did quite well, so no, I really appreciate the comments and you know, constructiveness and your shares and your likes. You know, the channel's grown a little bit since then, so I'm really pleased. Thank you. So yeah, take care, and thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.